Joe talks about Joe. And now, your host, Joe Slepsky.
Hello again, everybody, and welcome back to Joe on Joe. It's me, your host, Joe Slepsky. And this week we are taking a brief hiatus from the hot action in benzene that we've been covering for the last 10 weeks, I think. That Cobra War in the Middle East was, one, awesome, and two, a good 10 issues, I think. And we're going to jump over to a modern book. We're doing G.I. Joe Saturday Morning Adventures. Now, for you new listeners, this is Joe on Joe, or me, your host, Joe Slepsky. I watch every episode of the cartoon with a partner usually, and we comment on each episode, Mystery Science style. And then I also do these episodes, which are Joe on Joe Illustrateds. I do those solo, and I go page by page, panel by panel, with kind of a critic expert eye. Personally, my bona fides, I've got 40,000 comic books. Been reading them since I was 12. Like to think I know a little bit about a little bit, and we break them down and we talk more about kind of the art of it, and less of like a review show. Now, with that in mind, I always do. I mean, I love almost every issue of G.I. Joe. Death Game, notwithstanding. And I'm going to go out front with this too. I enjoyed this quite a bit. It was a great issue. And one of the things that we always do on the show is we look back at other comic books that were on the shelves at the time and things like that. We're not going to be able to do that today because it came out last week. So if you're listening to this and you want to see what other comic books were on the shelf the same week or month that G.I. Joe Saturday Morning Adventures #1 came out, go to your local comic shop. Get off your butt and go to the comic shop and see what's there. And if you want to see what movies were in the theater, I was going to say open up a paper. That's not even accurate. Go to the movie theater. Open up your app and see what movies are screening. We got movies like Uncharted out there. And Spider-Man is certainly still in the theaters, etc., and so on and so forth. But before we do get down into the actual breakdowns of G.I. Joe Saturday Morning Adventures, we're going to first hear from our wonderful sponsor, the Movies and a Meal podcast.
Listeners, I know what you need in your life. You need more podcasts. And you also love movies. So why not do a podcast that's about not one movie, it's about not two movies, it's about 3 movies and a meal. I'm talking the Movies and a Meal podcast. This show is great. It's brought to you by Keith, Brad, and Ben, and each week they bring a new movie to the table, which they all discuss as a group. And it's not, your highfalutin movies. It's What We Do in the Shadows, The Fantastic Four, Rise of the Silver Surfer, and Out of Sight. It's Bad Education, Ghost Rider, and A View to a Kill. It's X-Men Last Stand, Queen Sugar, The Mandalorian, and Major League 2. They are a lot of fun to listen to. You guys know Ben. It's our friend Ben Pensarga. He was a guest on Joe and Joe. In fact, Ben was the very first remote guest that I ever had on this podcast, so he's always got a special place in my heart. I'm really digging this. I just started listening to it last week. It is a lot of fun. They bring a guest in. The guest, I listened to their Heathers episode. They were joined by Kelly, and she went in depth on her favorite movie, which was Heathers, and it made me want to go watch Heathers to watch with them. I really dig it. So guys, find them out there at Movies and a Meal, Twitter, Instagram. Their website is moviesandameal.podbean.com. They put out 1 episode a week. Give them a listen, guys. Support them. Let them know Joe on Joe sent you. I don't think you're going to be disappointed. It is quite entertaining. And now back to the show.
They really have been great. We're going into Oscar season, so I'm sure that they're going to have a lot to say about all the Oscar-nominated stuff. I think it's so weird. Like these last 2 years of COVID, it's really skewed just the way, like there were always these rhythms of films and when they were released, and you could certainly count on a certain number of highfalutin movies getting Oscar nominations and stuff. But then when you get into the last 2 years with COVID shutdowns and all that stuff, the number of those movies has just dwindled so much that you end up with some movies being nominated for things that, people are like, wow, in a different year, there's no way, because you just would have had more competition and et cetera and so on. So they're going to get into that stuff over at Movies and a Meal for sure. So I really appreciate them. And while you're subscribing to their podcast, certainly subscribe to my podcast on any podcast catcher that you're on. But also head over to, if you happen to be on Facebook or Twitter or Instagram, find me at Joe on Joe Pod and say hello. The worst thing for my Twitter followers is that Libsyn has now introduced a calendar scheduler. So now I can plan ahead. So now I tweet a lot more about my issues that release. So I've been tweeting and I've been digging up old stuff. So I think we're going to get into a cadence of doing like retro old episodes, like I guess probably like Throwback Thursday makes sense. So we're probably going to be doing some more of that, but we'll be highlighting those on Twitter. Those, like, they won't come through on the feed. You'll find the link on Twitter, things like that. Anyway, having fun with it. Well, let's see. In the world of G.I. Joe, I ordered my Super 7 Wave 2s this week. I got all the main ones, and I can't find it in me. I can't find it in my wallet to get each of the soldiers, like the troop builders, because they have like, what is it? Is it 4 variations of each, or three or 4 variations of each, Cobra soldier, with the H back and then the Y back and then the green shirt and, the green shirt with, there's at least 3 different skin tones. And then there's now soldiers or sailors rather. And they look amazing, but I think I ordered 1 of each just because I can't do them all. But I can't wait for those to show up. I'm very excited for them. My first wave arrived, and they were fabulous. And also imminent release is the G.I. Joe role-playing game. The trading card game came out a couple months ago. I hope you guys are enjoying that. I have the game. We have yet to make a Joe night to kind of dig in and play it and really get into the intricacies of it. But when the role-playing game gets here, I'm excited to see how that plays out, because I am not a role-playing guy. I'm on the record of saying I'm not a fan of role-playing stuff. It's, and the first thing out of everyone's mouth is always, you just need a good dungeon master. And I've had like 3 or 4 different attempts with people who I appreciate and love and enjoy, and I think they did a great job dungeon mastering. I don't know. So we're going to see if I can overcome that tabletop role-playing game hurdle with G.I. Joe. And maybe with me being the dungeon master, maybe that'll be the difference, because I'll be more interested, because I'll just be constantly throwing brainwave scanners at people. And twins will constantly be leaping up buildings to attack the Joe team. I don't even know how it works, but I'm excited. So, we're not doing...
You were saying?
Today. No, we're not. Oh, one more thing. While you're online on stuff, this show does have a Patreon. So if you go to patreon.com/JoeOnJoePod and you want to help support the show, you can sign up for as little as $1 a month or $3 a month. Or if you have something you want help promoting, we have a $20 sponsor level, and you can come in through there. And I am more than happy. Love to discuss your upcoming projects and get the word out on them and spread the joy. We had some great product. They weren't a sponsor, but a great product. The Collecting the Art of G.I. Joe just did an omnibus Kickstarter thing, and boy, was I happy for Carson and those guys. That book looks great. But if you have projects like that or stuff, and you want to throw a promo in, happy to help. So jump over to patreon.com/JoeOnJoePod and help support the show. You also get access to all of the Joe on Joe Illustrateds, which is me talking comic books, because I believe the first 55 or 60 or so issues are only for Patreons. So patrons, whatever, you know what I'm saying. So check it out, help support, or just help support by following me on Twitter and sending me some love, or send me an email to joeandjoepod@gmail.com. All right, that's enough.
You were saying?
I was. It's time.
Now, mass is ready.
G.I. Joe Saturday Morning Adventures. I didn't know how much I needed this cartoon-based comic book until I heard about it a couple months ago. I think a lot of us who, kind of have a little creative bent in them has always said, like, man, here's how I would do it. Or, I would love to see some, I don't know why it took this long. Not just IDW. This is not pointing a finger at anybody. For IDW, Devil's Due, Marvel, Dark Horse, anyone who's had the G.I. Joe license for all these years, to never have gone back and picked up the continuity of the Saturday morning, in this case, Saturday Morning Adventures. We're going to get to that in a second, guys. Continuity of the Sunbow stuff. I don't know why it took this long. I am so happy that it's here. I think big broad strokes. I think it's awesome. I love the show. You guys know this podcast was based on my love for the cartoon. And we spent the first, 3-4 years just doing cartoon stuff. And then we started doing comic book stuff. So I've got a rich history with loving the Sunbow cartoon. And this works for me on almost every level. I think the execution is near flawless. The cover is great. So I'm looking at the cover A, which is the main cover. It's got Cobra Commander holding, I believe it's Aladdin's lamp, and there's a bunch of red clouds behind him. And in the front, very reminiscent of a lot of the promo art of the show at the time, where the Joes would be like in a V formation, usually in front of like a U.S. flag or something. You've got Duke, Flint, Scarlet, Roadblock, Gung Ho, Sci-Fi, awesome, Snake Eyes, Lady J, and Beachhead. And to say that they look like their Sunbow versions is to do a disservice to, I believe Dan Schoening is the artist. Schoening, and pardon me if I'm mispronouncing that, Dan. I believe he's the artist of this specific cover. It's to do a disservice to him because, Dan Schoening did the art on it, and Luis Antonio Delgado did the colors. It looks like these were ripped from the animation cells. That is how accurate this is. If you real quick flip to the back, you see there's multiple covers. There's a cover B. I guess it would be cover B. They don't label it that, by Megan Huang, who the cover looks great, and it certainly captures the spirit of the cartoon. You know, it's more of a manga style, but it doesn't look like the cartoon. This is one with Baroness and Destro in a tank, and Scarlet, Duke, and Snake Eyes in the front. Like, it certainly, yes, you could see this and say, okay, they're doing animated adventures, but it's its own thing. And then there's a VHS box cover by Billy Penn, which I really, really dig. I didn't see this cover in the store by the time when I picked mine up. But again, yes, you could tell they're doing the Sunbow stuff, but you can't. It doesn't really. It doesn't look Sunbow accurate. Dan Schoening nails it. It is absolutely ripped from the animation cell. So excellent job. Great cover. So now we'll talk real quick about something that I don't understand why this is here. And this is a little nitpick, and this ties in a little bit with the lesson at the end of this, which we will get to at the end of the book. So I mean this more as a critique, more as they call it Saturday Morning Adventures. G.I. Joe was not a Saturday morning cartoon. I'm a Saturday morning cartoon lover. My favorite show of the whole year for, 3-4 years running was not the actual cartoons themselves. It was the preview show like NBC would put out, where they'd be like, guess what's coming this fall on Saturday morning cartoons. And they'd show you like, you're getting more Care Bears and you're getting more Smurfs. And you guys know the one episode I'm talking about. It would be a big deal. And it was your coming soon preview show. And the anticipation for that, to know what I was going to be watching every day on Saturday morning, was huge. I was a massive fan of Saturday morning cartoons. Having said that, G.I. Joe was not on Saturday mornings. And I'm not even talking about in Chicago, and like in my, syndication stuff. G.I. Joe was built to be a 5-day-a-week cartoon. Did it air on Saturdays in some places at some point in time? Absolutely. Can't deny that it did. Of course it did. But it was designed to be a first-run show 5 days a week for when you get home after school or early in the morning before school. That's how it aired. That is how it aired. Like when we were kids, when it first ran, that is how it aired. They made 60-some episode seasons, and they would release them in blocks. It was like He-Man. That's how they made them. They made giant blocks. They sold them into syndication. And then they would air 5 days a week. The first 3 miniseries, those weren't aired on Saturday mornings like for 5 Saturdays in a row. Those were aired 5 days in a row, and it was Come Back Tomorrow for part 2 of the the mass device. Come Back Tomorrow for part 3 of Pyramids of Darkness. So I don't know how this gets tagged Saturday Morning Adventures, except to say cartoons. I don't know why they couldn't go with Animated Adventures or G.I. Joe, the animated series. I don't know if that's some weird Batman copyright. It just seems odd to me, and it seems like a weird choice. Because and Transformers are the same thing too. Transformers also 5 days a week. Mask was 5 days a week. These were not Saturday morning shows. So standing on I get it. I'm standing on a soapbox in the middle of the desert screaming for no reason. I'm not really screaming about it. I just think that's a weird decision to make, to call it something that it never was. So ta-da. Having said that, we're going to get that out of the way. And then, of course, we're going to revisit it when we get to the bulletproof vest that this comic book wraps itself in.
Yo, Joe!
Writer Eric Burnham, artist Dan Schoening, colorist Luis Antonio Delgado, Neil Uyatake is the letterer, Tom Waltz is the group editor, Megan Brown is the editor, and friend of the show, an all-around awesome person, Diana Davis, shout out, is the research specialist. Diana, you did a great job with this, and this is the interior page. I don't know if did they give a name to this actual story? Because usually, we like to read the name of the story in the front, and I don't see anywhere where this story has a name. You know what I mean? Like, it's G.I. Joe issue 116, but the name of the story is like Breakout, or something like that. This doesn't have a name. It's just called Saturday Morning Adventures. So that's the name of the story. So, okay. Let's see. Eric Burnham and Dan Schoening have both done a lot of work for IDW. Burnham's done a lot of really good stuff. Both of them done a lot of really good stuff. Burnham's worked on the Godzilla franchise. He's done a ton of Transformers and Ghostbuster stuff. He did a lot. He did the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Ghostbuster crossover. He did Back to the Future. He did the Citizen Brown miniseries plus the regular series. So he knows how to deal with a licensed property, and it shows. The same thing goes for Dan Schoening. He did the Transformers Ghostbusters crossover, which was really good. I read that. A bunch of the Ghostbusters artwork for their various miniseries, Back to the Future, Godzilla. So they've worked together on a whole lot of books. And if you ever looked at IDW's licensed property books, they all are stunning in their in the way that they absolutely capture the spirit of the product. And this one is no different. This completely captures the spirit and the look and the style of it. So we're going to get right to it.
Yo, Joe!
So it opens in, just like every great episode, it opens at like Cobra Temple. You can hear the, you guys should really read this with that G.I. Joe soundtrack that released last year. You hear that do-do-do music, like real low. And it's the Cobra Temple with the giant snake over what appears to be a type of terrordrome in the Pacific. And Cobra Commander is standing in front of his crowd of goons, and he's holding a little something, some kind of amulet or something, like a little gold statue in his hand, saying this is exactly what he was looking for. So we've got Destro and Baroness, and we've got the Dreadnoks, and it's Torch and Buzzer and Zartan. And not only do they is everyone 100% on model for Sunbow, but even the shadows and the coloring is Sunbow accurate. They're not then applying like modern inking, like comic book inking styles to the characters themselves. Like you've have animation style shadows and animation style framework for all these characters, which is nice.
Yo, Joe!
and Cobra Commander, and we get introduced to everyone. We see that Baroness and Destro, and it's all three, and Torch is there too, all three of the Dreadnoks, and we learn that Zartan stole this, whatever this is, which it doesn't really matter. In the next page, we learn they stole it for Cobra Commander, and Cobra Commander pulls a weapon, and the Dreadnoks think that he's going to shoot them, which is awesome. And you can hear their voices just sniveling in this moment. The facial expressions are really great on Buzzer and Ripper. And Cobra Commander points his laser, his animation accurate laser at them.
Yo, Joe!
And he ends up shooting the little whatever casket. It was like an urn, really, is what it was. Because we see within the urn is the lamp of Aladdin. That's the MacGuffin of this adventure. And with the lamp of Aladdin, the world's going to be at his mercy. So, let's talk about the lamp of Aladdin.
Yo, Joe!
Personally, I prefer my Cobra schemes to be more scientific based, be more science based. This is by no means are they violating any rules. So 100% what was it? The Conch. They fought against. They fought with ghosts. There was the Conch that controlled men's minds. There's some other magics. There's a few other magic things that happen on the show. So it is not out of bounds for this to be a magic-based MacGuffin. Those were never my favorite. Those were always, didn't they go after the, the sheep of, the sheepskin of, Jason and the Argonauts. Yeah. Like that stuff they did. It's just those were never my personal favorite ones. So I just throwing out a favorite critique here of like, I wish it was more science based instead of more mystical based. But it is what it is. And certainly we get a nice fun demon shows up and he says, you get three lamps, and Cobra Commander wishes for ultimate power, and the demon's like, oh. And this is a nice rule. I like this. He says, I can't grant you power I do not possess. I can grant no dominion over the hearts or minds of other people, and I cannot resurrect the dead. Beyond that, anything you want. And so this is nice. And just the dialogue is great. You could just hear Cobra Commander screaming this dialogue. And by the way, they've got Commander in his metal faceplate, which looks dynamite.
Yo, Joe!
Destro whispers something to Cobra Commander, so I'm assuming, and it's blurred out, so we don't hear it. So it's an actual whisper. And there's I don't trust Destro, so like what Cobra Commander wishes for here is it's perfect for the cartoon and it's dumb. But he wishes for giant-sized battle android troopers. And I wish that they didn't. I wish I knew what Destro was whispering. Because in my head canon, or maybe I don't, because in my head canon, I wish Destro did. I don't think Destro said wish for gigantic battle android troopers. I feel like he said something like wish for a giant platoon of unstoppable soldiers. And Cobra Commander translates that into giant battle android troopers. I don't know, but to hear that come out of Destro's mouth, I'm like, that's because that's a wacky scheme. I feel like that's a scheme that Cobra Commander translates, like based on Destro's suggestion. But we get 5 battle android troopers that have now grown to the size of, I don't know, a 30-story building. I think they say it later on, but like a 20-story building, something like that. And Cobra Commander apparently has big plans. I like to think that this is a secret tie-in with that Super 7 giant battle android trooper toy. That's what this is.
Yo, Joe!
Meanwhile, at the pit, which is drawn awesomely, and I love that it's just sit in the middle of nowhere. And I say that because like there's no roads that lead up to this. The pit is just the pit, and that's how it was drawn in the cartoon. Like they're not at Fort Wadsworth, right? They're not hidden under under an existing army base. They're not in Utah. There are literally no roads that lead to the pit. And I kind of like that. It's also one side is just super exposed because that's how it was in the cartoon. It's pretty great. But we see the Joes are all gathered, and we get our first look at kind of where the flavor, like what generation of Sunbow we're dealing with here. And right away we get Alpine and Bazooka cracking wise. And if that's not your favorite era of Sunbow, I don't know what is, because Alpine and Bazooka, top five favorite Sunbow guys. Absolutely fabulous. He even calls them Bazook, and Bazooka says, boom, which is just perfect. And Duke's basically filling him in that there was some big art theft. We think Zartan was, involved, etc. and so on. But as the Joes are chatting, there's a giant explosion that sends everybody reeling.
Yo, Joe!
And they go to work trying to figure it out. What I also like about the art style in this, the choices here, they not only do they look like pieces of animation cells, they look like it's almost like fumetti is what it is. There was which one of the annuals? It probably was the annual number 1, where they took a lot of the animation cells from the cartoon, and they talked about it. You guys remember this? And they used the cells printed in the comic book, but like they kind of pieced together, stories, and they talked about it. And it was kind of like fumetti, where fumetti is you take real photos, but in this case you're using animation cells. That's what this feels like, and it's great, and I'm here for it. And I enjoy that, like, it's not done in a widescreen style to like simulate the look of what it would look like on your TV. Although back in the day, the aspect ratio would have been, 4:3, like TV aspect ratio. But I appreciate that it's not done like that. That it is done. It's done with comic book framing, but the framing of the of the images is really in fact really cartoony. In fact, on the previous page, that explosion, which is standard for comic book stuff, that's the first time that it didn't actually feel like a animation explosion. And that's not a knock. That's just like, oh wow, like they were nailing it. They really had me. They immerse you so much into the world of this animation comic book that that's a more traditional comic book panel. The big shwakum. And on this page that we're on, that we see the mainframe calls up on the video that what's happening outside is a 20-foot tall bat is blowing up the outside of the pit. The tough part about this photo, and it's hard to do because, like we said, the pit's in the middle of nowhere. It's hard to see perspective on this. Like, we know that they grew up, but I wish there was something in that picture with the bat to give it more perspective, because the pit to us looks like a toy, feels like a toy. So the result of here, where they're looking at on a screen, it does look like a normal sized bat is just shooting up a toy pit. So I don't know. I don't know how to. It still looks great. Don't get me wrong. I just don't know how to resolve that.
Yo, Joe!
Speaking of Yo Joes, we get our first Yo Joe on this page, and this is the size we get. We get Alpine saying, "Is that a 100-foot tall bat?" And a big robot from Bazooka, which is fabulous. And we get our first Yo Joe. Duke gets Gung Ho and Doc, and who else is there? Scarlet, Bazooka, Alpine, and Cover Girl. They're all running. And G.I. Joe, everyone flies. So that's great. So as Roadblock says, if you can fly, get your butts in the sky. Let's go, let's go. I love a good Roadblock rhyme. It's always welcome. It's the only way he should talk ever when you're dealing with any kind of Sunbow related stuff or any kind of Roadblock stuff, in my opinion. I don't know why The Rock didn't rhyme throughout that entire movie. So now this panel, we get a good idea of the perspective, where the bat is just swatting at these Sky Strikers, and lasers are just bouncing off them.
Yo, Joe!
Get some evasive maneuvers going on. This whole sequence is very much King Kong kaiju related stuff, with like giant hand reaching out, trying to capture these, airplanes singing at them. So this whole sequence is very King Kong-y, which I appreciate. And this goes back to these guys, the creators' history, working on things like Godzilla. So that's great. And Ace, I love seeing specialists do their thing. Ace gets an idea, and he says, hey, don't be nervous, Duke, trust me. But this is it. This is why I love the specializations of G.I. Joe, when that's who's the guy steps up and goes, oh, wait, I'm the pilot here. I'm the guy who has come up with the idea. Or if there's a bomb, then you need to get your bomb specialist in there to defuse it, kind of a thing. Like, that's, for me, that's the bread and butter, having a team of specialists.
Yo, Joe!
Now, Ace, he's looking for like a weak point in the joints, because they figure if he's a giant, bats always have like one weak point, and so even if he's a giant bat, he should still have that weak point. So we get some, we get the Sky Striker kind of flying around. He's trying to swat him. Shades of Avenger or Captain America: Civil War with Giant Man, and Ace is aiming at his rear right leg. I'm a little confused as to what happens here. So Ace, instead of shooting at it, he actually rams his Sky Striker into the back knee, which is like a weak point for the bat. And it's really small, but he does eject with a parachute, and you see 2 panels later on the next page, you see him in his parachute. It didn't translate really well what he was doing there. And maybe that's in the spirit of the cartoon, because like the cartoon wouldn't show. I don't feel like they would get up close and show someone just going on a kamikaze mission. But I will say it was a little difficult to kind of track. I thought he was just shooting at his leg. And then you go, oh no, he rammed his jet into it, but there's never a shot of the jet kind of connecting there. It's lost in the explosion kind of a thing. If you're reading it, you see what I'm saying. So, but it's still functional. It still works. Maybe if this shot of the leg was, instead of being a ground's eye view of it, maybe if it was an over the shoulder view of Ace ejecting, or, like with kind of Ace ejecting around the bat's head or something. I don't know. I'm not sure what the solution here, but I was a little lost in the storytelling there.
Yo, Joe!
But we get the result is his leg is lost. So now, obviously, with only one leg, he's going to fall. So Ace yells timber, and the actual timber is nowhere to be seen. So the bat falls to the ground and kind of fizzles out, and so they just have a giant bat, and Ace is parachuting to the ground. So it's good. It's awesome. I love seeing Ace save the day. I love Ace. And well done. So he says those bats only need one solid hit in the right place.
Yo, Joe!
His Cobra Commander screaming inconceivable. You can imagine Princess Bride levels of that. And he says, they were supposed to be indestructible, etc. And, Cobra Commander points out, it was still a rough fight, blah, blah, blah. And he's, of course, in great typical Cobra Commander fashion, he's blaming other people. It was Destro. You decided 5 was a good number for, he asked for a unit of giant bats, and it's Destro's fault because the unit only had 5 giant bats, which is pretty funny. And so now the demon's genie, I guess, rather, is like, you got 2 more wishes, and like all great genies or djinns, they're always trying to, get their master, the guy whoever rubbed the lamp, to make the worst possible choice. I think it's because they're bored when they live in that thing. So when they come out, they just want to see mayhem, kind of like Mr. McZeedleplick.
Yo, Joe!
And so Commander actually sees through that, which is one of the few moments of actual insight that Cobra Commander ever shows. Like, no, wait a minute. Like, I'm not. Come on. And so now we learned that the Baroness says Destro has a force field emitters that Destro was working on for the normal size bats. So they thought that, hey, if they apply those force field emitters to the giant size bats, then he wouldn't have to use a wish. They still had 4 giant size bats they could deploy.
Yo, Joe!
I gotta say that genie didn't look very happy that he wasn't wasting a wish on something silly. But it does take them a full week, and so a week later, the Joes are still dismantling that giant bat. Sci-Fi is taking the lead on it. I love seeing Sci-Fi. Duke's getting an update on him, and this is awesome. I really love the drawing on this. He basically says, I'm not so sure they were built bigger. He says, unless Intex started making some enormous chips, and he's holding like a microchip that you or I would have in our laptop, but it's huge. It's a 4 foot tall, like microchip, and saying that they're pretty sure this was a normal chip, but it was just enlarged to be this size. So they have a size growing machine, which the Cobra Commander has had access to. Remember the, a couple things. They had the giant fruits and vegetables that were exploding over Chicago. That was a fan favorite. Maybe we'll share that one this week. And as they're trying to figure out this mystery, Alpine comes in and says, we got a phone call.
Yo, Joe!
Like all great Cobra Commander schemes, he has to telegraph it to the world. There has to be a phone call involved. This is why I appreciate this book a lot, because there's always a phone call. There's always a message to the world. There's always a, hey, I'm holding you for hostage. Give me $1 billion kind of a call. And that's exactly what we have here. And he says, behold, we have, this is Cobra Commander. We've got a mega bat. And again, it's another gigantic bat. And the Joes aren't impressed because they're like, we already took care of one. Like, all right, just do it again. And he's standing, this mega bat is standing in front of some HISS tanks. So this does give it a little bit of perspective.
Yo, Joe!
And at that size, as Cobra Commander says, the power is unparalleled. And it burns, I guess, just some forest stuff. So it's exciting. And Cobra Commander in this video says, it's only a robot. Like, how unstoppable could it be? Do not doubt the power of Cobra. This is great Cobra Commander writing. Honestly, it's perfect Sunbow Cobra Commander. Absolutely perfection.
Yo, Joe!
And Ace, in classic Ace fashion, this is really, really perfect on point for Ace. Saying that, we're just, come on, we'll just take all these out. This is not going to be a problem. And then we see that Cobra sends their own rattlers up against this thing, and it's swatting them away. And even Cobra was smart enough to, in this video, they imitate the same maneuver that Ace did, and it does not stop the bat. So this is Cobra Commander showing the world, showing the G.I. Joe rather, that you're not going to get me twice.
Yo, Joe!
Now Ace is worried. Scarlet's, you could just hear these voices. You really can. It's still standing. So Cobra Commander says 3 cities, Paris, Tokyo, and Washington, D.C. Unless Cobra is paid $1 billion, they're going to be destroyed because the Megabats have already been deployed. So that's that great Watchmen level. It's the plan's already in motion. This is the first you're hearing of it, but I've been working on it all week. You think I'm just sitting around on my duff doing nothing?
Yo, Joe!
So now the Joes have to rally, and here we go with all great G.I. Joe adventures, like animated adventures. They break up into teams, and so Duke is breaking the teams off. So he says, let's see, so we got contact the USS Flag in the Pacific, let them know about Tokyo. Flint and the team are running exercises with NATO in Brussels, so they're going to get to Paris. And then this crew here, which we've already met, which is Sci-Fi and Alpine and Duke, Scarlet and Ace, they're going to take care of the Megabat that's heading towards Washington, D.C. So we haven't even met, really, Flint and his boys over in Europe, and whoever is on the Flag. I'm assuming the Flag's going to be, awesome people like Shipwreck and so on and so forth. All like the nautical dudes. That's going to be amazing. And then probably NATO Brussels be like Flint and Snake Eyes and Stog. I can't wait. But I love it. That's what a great Joe animated adventure does. It's like this team, here's a problem. All right, now let's go split off into teams and do it. So now
Yo, Joe!
we get to the bulletproof vest of the conversation, and okay, like all great G.I. Joe animated adventures, we get a now you know and knowing's half the battle. And it says G.I. Joe presents Something to Know. I don't know if now you know. I guess, they're just calling it Something to Know because they do certainly say it at the end. But Something to Know. Anyway, so it's a little kid and he's sitting in front of a computer, and the computer's old. It's actually like era accurate old. There is a Transformers Optimus, or well, I guess it'd be an Autobot poster on his wall that's covered up by the Something to Know. I wonder if that's some kind of like they purposely covered it, or if they knew they were gonna like purposely covered it because of some kind of, even though Hasbro owns Transformers, like copyright issue, they can't have it in there, or if they just covered it for a fun Easter egg. But that I like it. So this kid's a Transformers fan, and he's reading. He's actually the comic they have him reading is the G.I. Joe Transformers crossover. If you look closely, I'm pretty sure it says G.I. Joe Transformers in this comic book that this kid's holding. And like all great Now You Knows, it involves a G.I. Joe member creeping or being a peeping Tom or somehow inserting himself into an underage child's bedroom and or domicile where he should not be. And I love it. I'm here for it. I think it's great. I think this whole page is absolutely spirit perfect. However, so the kid reads this comic book and it says, this isn't what I wanted to happen. The people who made this are stupid. And I'm going to tell everybody how stupid they are. And we're assuming, it's on the internet. He's going to go on the internet, and there's a microphone there. So he's going to, who knows, maybe he's a podcaster. And then his computer turns off, and it's mainframe who's just screwing with this kid's computer. He says, sounds like you were about to be pretty harsh there before your computer mysteriously crashed. The internet is a powerful tool for communication, but we don't need to attack others for a difference of opinion, especially over a story. That can make us the bad guy in our own story. And it's true, because the kid's reaction to not liking something he read is, I'm going to tell everybody how stupid they are. Instead of saying, you know what, I didn't necessarily like this myself. He says, I don't want that mainframe. I guess it's good to cool down before I talk about things. No, I know. And knowing is half the battle. So we get a nice mainframe. We get a little, the G.I. Joe logo at the end actually looks like it really is still framed from the old cartoon. And it's great. So this is one of those bulletproof things if you go, I get what they're doing. But then is it like, are you saying like, like, what are you saying? You don't want any heat for any choices you made on a comic book? But I get what you're saying, though, because this kid's reaction, if we break it down accurately, he didn't just say, I'm going to go voice my opinion. He said, I'm going to tell everybody how stupid they are for liking their opinion. And I agree with that. I've fallen into that a little bit. I try not to do that on the podcast, but I know I've fallen into that in just general conversations. I'm not gonna say I don't. Things like, the Snyder cut. When you see all those, I'm doing it right now, like all the Snyder cut rabid people, my brain goes, what is wrong with you? Instead of just saying, well, it's not for me. My brain thinks that person's broken, or, so I get it. And I think what this is saying is we don't have to be shitty to each other. You could still respect opinions and not be, and pardon my friends, I don't normally try to swear on the show, so I think that's what they're trying to say here. But it is funny reading this because this kid's reading a comic book specifically. It is kind of saying like, hey, if you didn't like this, and if you go on the internet or go on your podcast and try to say you didn't like it, you're this little dorky kid. Yeah, anyway, but I love it though. I think it's great. And yeah, so and that's it. And so we do see that we got next month's cover, a bunch of dragonflies, quick kick, still no shirt, but he does have a parachute. He's coming from above. Dragonflies are attacking a giant bat. I'm presuming this is actually this is in Tokyo. You can see from one of the buildings in the very bottom of it. That's awesome. I wonder if Quick Kick's over there filming a commercial like he was want to do. And then you get your gallery of other covers here. I do like this VHS cover. I wish I had seen that in action. I wonder how much like a VHS cover it looks like. And they've got the stickers and stuff, but with full trade dress and stuff. What was the execution like? I think it's great. And then this is the kind of thing where I wish IDW had done this years ago. I wish they had kind of had this kind of fun. That sound you hear is my putting it back in my bag and board. Because the word on the street is that they're losing the license. So this, I wish they had done this a little sooner, because I think we could have had a lot more adventures like this. I don't know whoever takes it over. I don't know if this is the kind of thing they'll want to continue, etc. I hope they do, because it is a genuine a lot of fun, especially from someone like myself who I really love the Sunbow stuff. I know everyone has their different corner of fandom. Some people just love the figures, the action figures. Some people really are just there for the comic books and the action figures. And usually, in my experience, it's been the animated show tends to come in last in most people's hearts. It's always been very, very, very close to first for me. So I think this is great. I think these guys really nailed it, and congratulations to them. So I'm looking forward to issue 2. I cannot wait. And next week we will be back with another regular episode of Joe and Joe Illustrated. I believe we'll be at is it 116? I think, yeah. Oh yeah, 116 with Destro. I think that's a Steel Freeze cover. Destro wanted. So Cobra Commander goes after the retiree Destro. So we'll see that next week. And so until then, now you Joe, and Joeing is half the battle.